Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome back to school. For some of you, it's going to be online. For some of you, it's going to be in school. I hope that you're adjusting to the new year, okay? And I hope that you had a happy start to it. We're actually going to focus today's lesson on New Year. We're going to be learning some exciting traditions from around the world, doing some dancing, doing some music. And if you're at home, you can be doing some singing along too. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do today is we're going to make a really quick shaker. Now, if you're watching this from school and you don't have the things to do this, you can just skip this part if you like, because we can use our hands for rhythm instead of a shaker, or you can use something else for rhythm, or maybe you can find some maracas or some instruments in the school. Okay, my egg maracas are in the admin room in my music movement box, and you're welcome to use those if you want to, if you're in school. And if you're at home, what I'd like you to do is to have a little look in your recycling box, or if there's anything in the bin, or one thing that we always find in every household is empty loo roll tubes. Okay, if you don't have that, empty bottle, or like an empty yogurt pot or hummus pot or anything like that. Any kind of container. I'm going to use today the loo roll tube because that is something that you're pretty much guaranteed to find in most households. Okay? And what I'm going to do with it is I'd like you to see if you can find some tape of any kind. Masking tape, electrical tape, sellotape. Ask mummy or daddy or guardian at home if they can find some. At the same time, maybe try and find some felt tips or some paint, glue, glitter, anything that you might want to decorate your shaker with. Okay, so if you need to go and find those things, pause the video here. Okay, if you've just come back, I've got some masking tape, and I found some electrical tape too that I found in my husband's toolbox. And so I'm going to use the masking tape to seal off any entry to my cylinder. If you have a box like this, you don't actually need any tape. You could add some tape just to seal around the seal so that it doesn't open up when you're shaking it. Or if you have a bottle, again, it's got a lid, you don't really need any tape. But if you've got any container that has an empty top or an empty bottom or holes in it, that's where you want to use your tape. So what I'd like you to do is to use your tape to cover those holes up. Okay, so I'm finding the hole on my toilet roll, and I'm going to use the tape to cover all of those holes. Okay? So once you've covered one end, okay, make sure that before you cover the other end, or before you cover any closure completely, if you've got a lid on it or something, make sure you can still take your lid off, okay? Because we're going to fill our shaker with whatever's going to make the shaky sound, okay? So I found some dal in my cupboard, some like little yellow split pea things to make dal. And I also found some lentils, which, first tradition fact, in Brazil, lentils represent money. So for New Year, they eat lentils in their dishes for their dinner in order to hope that they find wealth in that year to come. Okay, so eating lentils is a tradition in Brazil. So I'm going to use lentils, and I'm going to put some in my shaker. Okay. So that's what's going to give that shaky sound. And now I'm going to seal up the other end. So now I have my lentil-filled shaker. Okay? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to paint it. I've got some red, I've got some blue, and I've got some yellow paint, my 3 favourite colours, the primary colours. And I'm going to decorate my shaker, okay? If you have got a plastic and it's harder to paint on plastic, you could always put some masking tape on it and paint the masking tape. If you want to use some felt tips, if you want to use some glue and stick some paper on it, and whatever you'd like to decorate it, add some ribbons on it or anything like that, okay? So I have my shaker ready for our warm-up song, okay? Now make sure that you find somewhere that you have a little bit of space that you can move around and shake a little bit, okay? If you're at school, maybe you could take this time to just move the furniture a little bit out the way so that you can give each other a bit of space so that you're not touching and you're keeping that safe distance, okay? Hi, so hopefully you've made your shaker now, if you had time to do that and if you had the things to do it. If you didn't and you're in school, hopefully you managed to find my shakers in my music movement box. They look like these little egg shakers, so you're welcome to use them. If you didn't make a shaker and you happen to have some pens or pencils, you can always use them as like rhythm sticks like that. Careful if they're sharp though, not to poke yourself. If you used an empty bottle, you might have put some rice or lentils in an empty bottle. If you're at home and you don't have time to make those but you've got your own instruments, you can also use that. If you don't have any of those things, we've always got our hands to do some clapping for some rhythm. So for our rhythm song, we're going to do some stretching, we're going to do some moving, some shaking, some rhythm, and just generally warming up. Okay, so let's get your instruments ready if you've got them. Try and find the rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Doing some moving and warming up, stretching your arms out. Stretch as high as you can. Stretch as low as you can without bending your knees. And stretch out to the side. Stretch out to the side. And shaking your legs around. Stretch this leg up if you can do that. Put your hand out for balance or hand on your ear. And your other one. Hand out for balance or holding your ear if you need to. I need to with that one. Okay, and moving around a bit, warming up. Do some clapping. And really warming up. If you don't want to dance, you can always just jog on the spot, jump on the spot, skip on the spot. Okay, so hopefully you've warmed up a little bit now. It's really important that even in the winter, we're remembering to drink some water. So if you've got water bottles at school, make sure, I always forget in winter, I think, because it's that bit colder. I don't want cold water, but it's really important that we have water, especially when we're moving. Okay, so let's find out a bit more about our traditions around the world. So we found out that in Brazil, they like to eat They like to eat lentils, okay, because the lentils represent money, and they hope that it will then wish for a wealthy new year, okay? In New York, in America, they have a special tradition at midnight. There is a large glass ball that is high, high up in the sky on a very tall pole. And at midnight, they drop the ball. It comes all the way down the pole and it looks absolutely beautiful. If you have time to YouTube it or to Google it to see the glass ball drop, okay? And this happens in New Times Square. It's a very famous tradition, the New Year's ball drop, the large ball drop. And as a result, across America, they like to drop other things at midnight on New Year. Some places will drop things from great heights, like large, huge, heavy watermelons or balls, okay? Dropping things is actually something that is a tradition in other parts of the world too. Not just balls or melons from great heights, but in places like Denmark, they like to drop plates. They like to smash plates on the floor at midnight. Okay, so for our next song, what I'd like to see you doing is, if you have a ball anywhere at school, or a ball anywhere at home, or even better still, a balloon. If you don't have any of those things, don't worry, you can just pretend. Okay, you can imagine that you have a ball in your hand, okay? And we're going to drop the ball, and then we're going to have to chase and go and get it. Okay, are you ready? We're going to have our ball drop movement song. And if you're at school, you could do this in pairs with each other, dropping it to the other one to catch, dropping it to the other one to catch. I'm going to drop mine from a great height. Woo! And I'm going to go and get it. Here it comes again. We've been waiting on. Ooh, Happy New Year. Balloons are really good because they go all over the place. Or you can throw it to your friends. Okay, so in New York and around the world, they like to drop things. You might have heard in the song they were talking about bells chiming. That's actually something that in Japan they like to do. They like to ring bells. Not just once at the strike of midnight, not twice, not 3 times, not 10 times, not 100 times, but 108 times. Can you imagine that? If you imagine you have a bell, ding, ding. Now at midnight, how many times does the bell ring at midnight? Does anyone know? What time is it when it's midnight? Where would our hour hand on the clock be sitting at midnight? it would be sitting at the number 12, wouldn't it, at midnight? So how many times would the bell ring when it reaches midnight, when it reaches that new year midnight? It would also ring 12 times, okay? But in Japan, they ring the bell not 12 times, but 108 times, okay? So that's something you could also try at home or in your classrooms. Can you count to 108 together? Okay, could you ring a bell 108 times? I think my arm would get quite tired if I had to ring a big bell 108 times. Okay, so that's one other place. Now, one of my favourite traditions, which I didn't know about until I was researching for this lesson, is in Romania, okay? A beautiful country in Europe, in Romania. Now, in Romania, there's a lot of beautiful wildlife in their mountains. Does anyone know which animal you often find in the mountains in Romania? The bears, the brown bears, okay? Not the big ones, they're actually quite small. Now in Romania at New Year, they like to dress up as wild bears. And they do that because they think that it will ward off any of the evil spirits, any of the bad happenings that might come to them in the following year. So they dress up as a big scary animal so that they can ward off all of the scary and bad things, and so that the next year will be full of goodness. As a result, they will have been protected. Okay, so for our next song, if you're at home, if you have anything, fancy dress, any kind of wild animals, anything, okay, again, if you're at school, if you'd like to make something new, if you'd like to make some ears, if you'd like to make a tail, if not, just show me some grizzly fangs or show me some grizzly teeth. Okay, show me that you are a grizzly wild animal. It doesn't have to be a bear for our song, okay, even though in Romania it would be. I'd like you to see if you can dress up as a wild animal, and I'm going to do the same for our next song. Are you ready in your grizzly outfits? Whatever you found, whatever you can do to make yourself wild and scary, yeah, to ward off those evil spirits for our new year. Okay, you ready? Okay, let's see this grizzly teeth. Scaring off any bad spirit. Okay, so that's Romania, dressing up as bears to scare off those wild animals, okay? Now something a bit more traditional is something that we do here in the UK. At midnight, and actually often for the hours before and sometimes for the days before and the hours and the days afterwards, we hear lots of loud noise in the sky, don't we? Now, if you're awake for these noises, you can often see them in the sky as well. Even from your own bedroom windows, you can sometimes see from quite far away. Okay, what are those things that make a loud bang in the sky and are full of colour explosions? They're fireworks, okay? Now, some of the biggest fireworks displays in the world, you might find somewhere like in Sydney in Australia, okay, over there, Sydney Opera House. And in New Zealand, you find one of the biggest displays. And here in London, we always do a big display up on the Millennium Bridge, okay? Fireworks is something that you see a lot, especially in Europe, in America, in Australia, and New Zealand, okay? So for our next song and our last song, I'd like to see you being a firework. What does a firework do? It starts off, doesn't it, down at the bottom, okay, and someone lights it, and then it explodes, it comes up into the sky, and it explodes into a big firework, doesn't it? Okay, so I'd like to see us for our very last song, exploding as fireworks. Okay, you ready? Okay, ready? Starting down low, someone lights you, and you explode up into the sky. Another one. Lovely, someone lights you, ready to explode. Starting off down. Someone lights you. Exploding into the sky. Bang! 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 Okay, which leads us to the end of our music and movement. Okay, so just to recap, we learnt about just a few of the unusual and special traditions for New Year from around the world. We looked at the lentils in Brazil. We looked at the big ball drop in New York. We looked at the bears warding away all of the evil spirits in Romania. We looked at fireworks. We looked at bells ringing in Japan. Okay, we looked at other places that like to drop things and smash things. Fireworks are one of the most common. Okay, there are lots of other things that happen on New Year around the world, and it would be really interesting to hear some of your favourite traditions. Maybe you are from a country, maybe your family, maybe your parents are from a country that have a special tradition. I would love to hear about it. Write me a message on Google Classroom and tell me if there is a special tradition you like to celebrate. Teach me, okay? So for our last track, I would like you to just relax and unwind and listen to a piece of music that can calm you down. Maybe you'd like to lie on the floor if you're at home, to lie on the sofa if you're at home. Maybe if you're just in your room and you're on your chair, you'd like to just recline on your chair and just relax. Try and rest all the parts of your body. Rest your eyes, rest your heart from beating quickly. Okay, if you're at school, if you're on a chair, if you could recline on that chair, as I said. Okay, try and switch off from all the sounds apart from our relaxing music. And I will see you again for next week where we'll be looking at a new topic. Happy New Year, guys. It's so nice to be talking to you again. I wish I could see you too. And I'll speak to you next week.